When the emergency arrest warrant for Secretary Hung was approved, the police force launched their operation. Early that morning, all task units were mobilized and deployed according to a strategic plan to surround and capture the suspects from multiple directions. However, what no one had anticipated was that Hung and her accomplices had already fled to a mountainous forest region bordering two northern provinces, an area known for its treacherous terrain and poor communication signals. The arrest mission instantly became significantly more challenging. A reconnaissance unit, led by Captain Ha, was immediately tasked with tracking the group's escape route. Based on traffic camera footage and a local vendor's testimony about a group of strangers buying supplies at a mountain market 3 days earlier, investigators concluded that Hung had taken a narrow forest trail west of the Cam Phong Range, a remote path with thick fog and natural rock crevices perfect for hiding. The police's off-road vehicle stopped at an old ranger station, where the officers divided into two teams, carrying weapons, dried food, and specialized communication equipment. Their mission: to track through the dense jungle, following crushed grass and broken branches, evidence that the fugitives had recently passed. Faint tire tracks in the red soil also indicated someone had used a tractor to transport goods into the forest, likely helping Hung and her group. As the sun rose higher, rays of light pierced the thick foliage, casting speckles on the leaf-littered ground. The forest air was humid and earthy. Each step the officers took was cautious and deliberate to avoid making noise. Whenever birds startled and took flight, the team froze, eyes scanning every shadow. Not far from there, hidden in a deep ravine under a tarp tent, Hung and her two companions, Lap and Lone, were lying low. "We can't stay here much longer," Lap whispered, peering through a mini-scope. "The police are closing in. They're better than we thought." Hung remained silent, her face pale and rigid, her eyes revealing growing fear. She knew hiding in the forest was only a temporary solution. After evidence of leaked documents had surfaced, she had no other choice but to flee. The group had brought solar chargers, a satellite phone, and enough food for several days, everything carefully planned. But they hadn't expected the police to enter the forest less than 12 hours later. By afternoon, the second recon team discovered fresh footprints near a small stream. The water was recently stirred, and there were scraps of plastic and remnants of fire, clear signs that someone had camped there within the last 24 hours. The team reported back to command, and reinforcements were dispatched from the base of the mountain. A perimeter was quickly established to block all known forest exits. Deeper into the jungle, vines tangled around trees and grass grew waist-high. Yet amid this chaos, a tracker spotted a fresh sneaker print, too clean and new to belong to locals or rangers. The team followed the trail, moving closer to a suspected hideout. On the other side of the forest, Hung felt the tension rise. She ordered the group to dismantle camp, power down all devices, and split into two smaller teams to confuse the police. Lap and Lone took the supplies northward, while Hung alone crossed a bamboo grove, aiming to reach a secret rendezvous point where a motorbike would take her further away. Around 4 p.m., the third recon team heard faint rustling about 100 meters away. The commander signaled silence, and the officers spread out in a semicircle, preparing to move in. Minutes later, they spotted two figures carrying backpacks, Lap and Lone. Unaware they were being watched, the pair continued along the rocky slope. When they paused to drink, an officer silently tagged Lone's backpack with a tracker. allowing them to trace their movement without alerting the fugitives. As dusk fell, forest fog thickened. The tracker revealed that Lap and Lone had just reunited with a third signal, presumably Hung. Lieutenant Colonel Min ordered a complete lockdown of roads within a 10-kilometer radius and deployed a special mountain response unit. A low-flying military-grade drone scanned ravines using infrared. On screen, 3 figures appeared in a depression near the forest edge. One wore a gray jacket, matching the outfit Hung was last seen in. She was walking quickly, constantly glancing back, her face drawn tight with worry. All units converge on coordinate G4-221. Targets are moving south through the bamboo zone. Flank and intercept, came the firm command. Within the forest, Hung suddenly halted. A strange wind whistled through the treetops, a warning sign. The satellite phone was already off. She couldn't contact anyone. The sky dimmed, sounds of the forest faded. It felt like the beginning of an ambush. Only a few hundred meters remained to the rendezvous point. But she didn't know every escape route was now sealed tight. As the sun disappeared behind the mountain ranges, the forest was swallowed in thick, murky mist. The tall canopy of trees intertwined above, forming a dark dome that made the police pursuit even more treacherous. Infrared flashlights lit up and special task units rotated to study satellite maps, pinpointing every suspicious coordinate. The manhunt had entered its tensest phase. The officers split into 3 groups, approaching the area where tracking devices had last picked up movement from the suspects. For hours earlier, they had found signs of a recently extinguished campfire, warm ration wrappers, and some items hastily abandoned. It was clear that Hung and her accomplices were aware of the pursuit and had retreated just in time. The surroundings were a mix of dense bamboo forests, deep ravines, and natural caves. The terrain was treacherous. One misstep could mean sliding into an abyss or triggering a trap set for wild animals. Despite this, the officers persisted, following every clue. They communicated using hand signals and encrypted radios, maintaining complete silence. Meanwhile, Hung, who had carefully prepared for this escape, led her group into a dry creek hidden between 2 hills, a rarely documented path once used by illegal loggers years ago. Thanks to her knowledge of the terrain and precise timing, she narrowly evaded the first police ring, but she knew that as night deepened, their chances of being detected would increase due to thermal tracking equipment. Lap and Lone carried 2 large backpacks, trailing about 50 meters behind Hung to minimize detection. Every time a suspicious sound emerged from the woods, they dropped flat to the ground, holding their breath. The chirping of insects and the flapping of nocturnal birds seemed swallowed by the thick, pressing darkness. A constant sense of being watched hung in the air. At a checkpoint on the western slope, the quick response team spotted signs near a small cave, a damp handkerchief, and a food wrapper at the entrance. Captain Hai decided to deploy a mini drone to survey the inside. However, due to poor signal and the cave's narrow entrance, the drone only transmitted blurry images before disconnecting. The officers carefully entered the cave with infrared lights, but it held only lingering body warmth. Whoever had been there had left just minutes earlier. The faint scent of burnt charcoal remained in the air. Once again, Hung had slipped away just in time. By midnight, all exits out of the forest were blocked. Police units spread out in a fan-shaped formation, tightening the perimeter. Drones equipped with thermal cameras scanned the forest from above. turning the terrain into a 3D map. A special unit with climbing gear and short-range weapons was ordered to silently approach an area showing irregular heat patterns near a rocky slope. Inside the forest, Hung sensed a danger closing in. She instructed Lap and Lone to abandon all non-essential items and only keep critical documents and survival tools. They decided to split up. No one gets caught if discovered. Stall them so the others can escape, Hung whispered. Her eyes, usually calm, now showed worry and fatigue. Lone slipped on a steep slope, but Hung pulled her up quickly. Cold sweat ran down their faces. The distant bark of search dogs confirmed the enemy was near. Through the suffocating darkness, the crackling of radios, the crunch of dry twigs, and the sweep of flashlights heightened the tension. Around 2 a.m., the Eastern scouting team found a fresh footprint in the muddy ground near a stream. It was a small-sized sneaker, matching the shoes Hung was seen wearing in the latest photo. The pattern of steps suggested she had stopped for water before heading up a steep northern slope, an area notorious for its cliffs and dense vegetation. The operation commander immediately ordered mountain climbing units to move in and deployed high-resolution thermal sensors for nighttime tracking. A high-end drone detected 3 heat sources, 1 stationary, 2 moving slowly. Teams rushed to the location, only to find 3 thermal blankets and a few smoldering logs. Hung and her team had faked their presence using heated items and cleverly built decoys. As dawn approached, cold mist crept in. The officers were instructed to hold their positions and prevent the suspects from escaping the forest. Temporary camps were set up, and shifts were arranged to allow officers to rest briefly. The temperature dropped rapidly, forcing everyone to conserve energy. Though Hung remained at large, the net was tightening with every passing. As the night deepened, a thick mist blanketed the abandoned forest. The cold seeped through the trees, biting into the skin with each gust of wind. In the silence of the night, each step echoed like the breath of a hunted animal. But Hung showed no fear. Everything had been carefully planned. Before going into hiding, Hung had devised a meticulous plan. She knew of an old abandoned house deep in the northern woods, once used as a shelter by illegal loggers. It was about 4 kilometers from a main road, hidden behind an overgrown trail. Weeks earlier, she had quietly arranged to clean and stock the house with dry food, water, blankets, and maps of escape routes. It would serve as a temporary safe house in case things turned dangerous. After separating from her 2 accomplices, Lone and Lap, Hung immediately slipped into the dense foliage leading to the old wooden house. To avoid leaving tracks, she scattered leaves along the trail and disrupted branches to confuse tracking dogs. Upon arrival, she locked the door, sealed the windows with black cloth, and ensured no light escaped. Inside, she finally exhaled. Through a small loft window, she could watch the forest without being seen. While Lone and Lap searched for a way out, Hung calmly reviewed the map, checking for backup escape routes and preparing for the worst. Meanwhile, the police expanded their operation. Silent patrols crept through ravines, along streams, splitting into smaller units to close the perimeter. They didn't yet know Hung had moved into hiding, but a drone picked up unusual movement near the abandoned cabin. Commander Hai immediately dispatched a team to investigate. Lone and Lap continued west, hoping to reach the forest edge. Unbeknownst to them, Lap was already under police surveillance. While climbing a rocky slope, a flashlight beam startled him. He ran. Officers gave chase, and after a tense pursuit, he was cornered, restrained, and escorted to the nearest checkpoint. The signal flare echoed through the forest. One suspect was caught. From her hiding place, Hung heard it, but her face remained calm. Lap's capture was a loss, but it bought her valuable time. She quickly changed tactics. Opening a trapdoor on the cabin floor, she accessed an old timber stash now turned into a crawl space. Inside were a change of clothes, a worn cap, and basic supplies. She wiped herself down, disguised her appearance with charcoal, and exited through a hidden back door. At the same time, officers surrounded the cabin. They breached the door and found the place recently occupied. Fresh footprints, used food wrappers, and a folded blanket. But Hung had already vanished. Following trails behind the house, the team pressed on, but deeper into the forest, tracks grew faint. She had carefully disrupted her path, scattered dry leaves, and constantly changed direction. As the fog thickened and visibility dropped, the pursuit slowed. At the field command center, Commander High received word. One accomplice caught, the cabin secured, but Hung still missing. He ordered expanded search zones, deployed thermal drones, and placed outposts at likely exit points. Meanwhile, Hung rested briefly in dense underbrush near the forest's edge. In the quiet dark, she recalled her entire plan. From the cabin to her current location, everything unfolding as expected. Time was short, but her calm gave her an advantage. Distant engine sounds signaled ongoing police patrols. But by now, she had slipped beyond the heavily guarded area. Heading toward a small stream, there a makeshift raft lay tied, her final escape route. Under the cover of night, she gently pushed the raft into the water. While the police intensified their manhunt behind her, the main target drifted silently downstream, leaving behind only an empty cabin and a single captured accomplice.